Hey everyone, so just a quick update. Lysychansk has fallen. It is official. There's no denying it now. Some Western media outlets, corporate media have denied it in the last day or so, even up till now, but making contending claims, but really there's no denying it. I mean, this is a pro-Ukrainian website, and this is Lysychansk. And as you can see, General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukrainian Army withdraw from Lysychansk. This is the center of Lysychansk. So Lysychansk is surrounded, and the center has been taken. Is there some pockets of resistance in Lysychansk? Sure, but I don't think you're going to make it out of here. If you're a Ukrainian soldier stuck somewhere in here, I don't think you're going to make it out unless your last name is Bond and your first name is James. Just straight up, guys. The northern area of the city and on the outskirts, yeah, sure. They might still be under Ukrainian control, and I say might because look over here. We see Zolotarivka. I believe the Russians said they took it a day or two ago, but now the Ukrainians are admitting that it's been taken. And so Zolotarivka is a little village, right? Tiny little village. Now, that puts the Russians, let's say from the center, about 4 miles away from closing the gap. So the Russians are basically 4 miles away from closing the gap. So this gap could close at any moment. All right. So if I were to guess, I would believe that the Ukrainian units that were left here, that are still there to this moment, if there are any, I would say they're territorial defense units, very lightly armed. Only maybe a few weeks of training. They're not. They're pretty much the expendables, right? They're being used as cover. They're being used to cover the flank, so the better units can't escape to set up a defensive line somewhere, maybe at Severodonetsk, right? Over at Severodonetsk, Bakhmut. These are going to be the next targets, right? So anything to the right here, anything to the east of this line will fall at any moment. And next couple minutes, hours, who knows? Because look, just give me a second. Look to the north here. The Russians are already on solid ground. They've already crossed the river. They are on solid ground here, and just over here, they're on solid ground here. So it's just a matter of time. They're surrounded by artillery as well. So it's just a matter of time before this entire little bulge falls, right? So that's that. And the next moves to look out for would be Severodonetsk. Maybe the Russians will go for Severodonetsk through this road. Right? They could also go through this road. And then there's also going to be Bakhmut area, Krasnohora, Solidar. These are areas to look out for, this general area. Because the Russians, what they want to do is they want to get to Bakhmut. Maybe this way, or maybe from the south. They want to get to Bakhmut from the south. And then they would also be interested in this road. So, oh my God, they're only 2 miles away from New York, guys. The Russians they're almost at New York. Oh no. Just imagine the Western media. If the Russians do take New York, they're going to make the biggest joke out of this ever. It's going to be a circus. But yeah, I mean, New York, watch out for New York, just as a namesake, trinket, as it were. But yeah, I mean, Bakhmut is significant because, in general, what the Russians want to do is they want to get on the M103. They want to get on the M103 because they are going to get to Sloviansk, right? From the M103 they can get to Sloviansk, right? And right here at Izium, they've been building up their forces for quite some time, so they can also move down from Izium at the same time to Sloviansk. And then eventually you're going to want to watch out for Kramatorsk. It's all going to culminate in the battle for Kramatorsk. All the analysts who knew what they were talking about it months ago, that the Donbass, the battle for the Donbass, would come down to Kramatorsk. And that's what it's going to come down to. Now, what do I think is going to happen next? I think the Russians are just going to continue to do what they are doing. So essentially, the Russians, they're pounding Ukrainian positions with artillery. In terms of artillery, they outnumber the Ukrainians 10 to 1, sometimes 20 to 1. 50,000, 70,000 shells a day in the rough area. That's how many shells they're hitting the Ukrainians' positions with. Now, why are the Russians using so much artillery? Well, because, guys, they have artillery, and the Ukrainians at this point they've lost most of their heavy equipment. Most of the Ukrainians, what the Russians are going to be dealing with is infantry. And the best weapon to take out infantry and entrenched positions, trenches and whatnot, is artillery. Artillery is the most cost-effective, the cheapest, and most efficient way to take out masses of artillery quickly and efficiently and cheaply. So why use jets when the Ukrainians, an air defense unit might pop out and launch a missile at your jet? There might be a hill somewhere around here where the air defense unit is hiding, in a bunker somewhere in a mountain hideout, and then suddenly your jet goes by, a spotter calls it in, and then the air defense system comes out and launches a couple missiles, and soon enough those missiles are going at hypersonic speeds towards that jet. So why risk your jets when the artillery is doing the job? And it's doing the job. They're winning. Russians they're winning, aren't they? So and you got to think of an average jet costs tens of millions of dollars. It takes years to train a pilot properly. So you're risking an asset every time you're sending a jet into the field. Especially a country like Ukraine. They have some, girth to the Ukraine has some girth to it, right? Ukraine is not like a tiny microstate or anything. If anything, it's an average-sized country, but has some depth to it, has some strategic depth. So, when the Russians took Crimea, obviously the Ukrainians were not prepared at all. But since then, for 7 years, the Ukrainians trained with NATO. They upgraded their weapons, probably with help from NATO. And it's a whole different ballpark when the Ukrainians are receiving intel from NATO, right? So they're receiving intelligence from NATO directly, from all the NATO aligned states, from the US, UK, France, Germany, probably less, but still, these air defense units are mobile. They can hide in underground bunkers. They can come out and launch missiles within a few minutes at a time, and then go back inside the bunkers in the side of a mountain. The bunker could be dug out in the middle of a field. The air defense system could be hiding in a forest, and it could be very well camouflaged, right? So why risk your planes when the Russians, in my opinion, what are they going to do? They're just going to keep doing what they're doing. They're just going to keep pounding the Ukrainians, hitting their supply lines, hitting their command centers, hitting their ammo depots, hitting their fuel storage. They're just going to keep hitting Ukrainian positions, and they know they outnumber them in terms of firepower, and that's not really going to change anytime soon. The amount of weapons that the West is sending are not nearly enough to change the balance of power when it comes to firepower, weapons like that, heavy weapons, artillery especially, and rockets. I mean, the U.S. sent like 4 HIMARS, multiple launch rocket systems, to Ukraine. 4. They might send another 4. I mean, come on, it's an advanced system, but it's not enough. You need the numbers. You need the like Stalin said, quantity has its own quality. You need the numbers to win a war. Doesn't matter if you have the best weapon in the world. If you only have 1 of them, or 2 of them, or 4 of them, it's not going to do the job. So, yeah, I think the Russians are just going to keep doing what they're doing, and they're just going to poke and prod at the Ukrainians. Poke and prod at them from here, poke and prod at them from here, New York. And they're just going to keep poking and prodding until they find an opening. And when they find an opening, they pour in their forces until the Ukrainians reinforce that position. They plug the gaps, and then the Russians again fall back to hitting the Ukrainian positions with more artillery. And then again, they poke and prod. And because when you keep poking and prodding at every position, at the entire battlefield, everywhere, where you're poking and prodding everywhere at the same time, you're going to find cracks somewhere, right, eventually. So that's what the Russians are doing. That's the reality on the ground right now. Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. And that's it, guys. Thank you for listening if you made it this far. And remember to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.